As a mathematician and a physicist, I would suggest that whichever institution gave you an award, revoke it immediately. What you're talking about is the most irreducible form of this is the biology, which is why you can uncover a body from 30,000 years ago, and a scientist can tell you whether it is a male or a female without ever knowing how that person lived.
Ben Shapiro has been on a rampage against woke culture for a long time. In today's video, we are going to be looking at moments where Ben Shapiro destroyed woke students and left them fuming in anger. Starting with this intense moment where Ben Shapiro called out an award-winning college student over his claims and insulting remarks.
And I also just won the most prestigious award in the country to pursue research at any institution I want, the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. So I think I'm pretty, qualified to say that most of what you're saying is based on, old data.
Before we move on, I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying this content, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Over 99% of our viewers watch without subscribing. It only takes a couple of seconds, and your support will help us share these topics with a wider audience. Have you hit that subscribe button? Awesome. Thank you so much for your support. From the start, the atmosphere was already heated up as the student began to list out his academic qualifications in order to form a base to support his claims on gender identity, which he explained that Shapiro had no right to disagree with due to his educational background.
For example, gender identity disorder, that's the DSM-4, bro. We use the DSM-5 now for psychologists to be able to talk about...
I literally cited the DSM-5 in the speech, and it's called gender dysphoria.
Ben Shapiro immediately disagreed with the student's take on gender dysphoria, and already tense moments soon went haywire when the college student sent a torrent of insults to Shapiro while trying to defend the idea that two gender identities are a Western culture imposed on the rest of the world.
And you get no pussy, and you can't even make your wife wet, bro, so what's good?
So, let me just say, the nice thing about having several small children is I don't feel the need...
Shapiro, as always, took control of the situation by maintaining his cool and dishing out his remarks on the issue, clearly in disagreement with what the college student had to say, and this seemed to piss him off. And he went all out again for the second time.
I'm a mathematician and a physicist. You cannot tell me...
So I have a question.
And also, you're not a biologist.
So I have a question.
I'm 20...
As a mathematician and a physicist, what in the hell do you know about human biology?
And you got your law degree from Harvard.
The final moments of this interview saw Shapiro leaving aside the issue of trans identity and the influence of Western culture in society. Then, it's all out for the college student, calling for his degree to be revoked.
If your logic is so flawed, as a mathematician and a physicist, I would suggest that whichever institution gave you an award, revoke it immediately.
Next, we have another interaction between Ben Shapiro and another college student who seemed to have little patience with the rest of the audience who came to hear Ben speaking.
People's grandparents or their great-grandparents were slaves.
Well, it's okay. No, it's okay. Guys,
Fuck you, I'm talking!
Guys, I actually want to hear. I want to hear. It's okay. It's okay. I want to.
Ben Shapiro was of the opinion that the kid should be given a chance, at least to speak, and he went on to describe the intergenerational trauma of minorities, which he argues exonerates them from some crimes in society.
But that's not what wokeism is. Wokeism is a different thing. Wokeism suggests that all inequalities of today are attributable to not only historic injustices, but also continuing injustices in the now, and that all disparity is attributable to discrimination.
Ben Shapiro believed that this student had it all wrong with the definition of tokenism in this day and age. According to Ben Shapiro, wokeness was a term used to represent the fight against oppression and discrimination. But in the modern era of Western civilization, wokeism now represents a term that has pushed division and race wars.
We're gonna have to stop here because this is going nowhere. But
what's up?
I'm gonna have to stop with this with you because this is going nowhere. All I'm going to say is this. To sum up,
I just am trying to understand your perspective.
Ben had to close the entire argument prematurely because the student was bent on changing the definition and unwilling to relent in his views.
On a fundamental level, you're shifting definitions to avoid the consequences of your own argument. And if the idea is... And final point, if you are going to, hold on, if you are also, Also,
The next student Ben Shapiro went up against didn't give him as much trouble as the last one, but his questions still baffled Ben Shapiro, who felt he needed to re-educate the college student in basic biology.
Now I have just a question about, in general, we have your preconceptions about gender and all that. So I'm wondering, I find it really unsatisfying when you talk about gender and being like male or female, as just reducing it down to chromosomes.
According to the student, reducing gender to just chromosomes is a false way to represent male and female characteristics.
Don't necessarily fit those categories. If you were to ask me what makes a good man or a useful man, I would give you a description that would include social categories like protecting your family, going out and earning, making sure that you build institutions in your society, right?
Ben was of the opinion that although social factors could create good men, it doesn't change the fact that the principles of middle school biology account for the reason why there are only two genders.
Of male or female, what you're talking about is the most irreducible form of this is the biology, which is why you can uncover a body from 30,000 years ago and a scientist can tell you whether it is a male or a female.
Ben Shapiro has been very clear on his stand that only two genders exist. He has made a career out of going around schools and colleges to debate this very controversial issue. In Ben's opinion, no amount of science can change the fact that only two genders exist. And for a long time, Shapiro has come under a lot of fire for his views.
Everyone you can find and trying to kill a terrorist who is deliberately hiding beneath the civilian area, hiding their rockets in civilian areas, starving their own people. And there is a best. Okay, so let me now answer my question.
Another intense moment is when Ben Shapiro, who is also Jewish, debates the Israel and Gaza conflict. According to Shapiro, those who are protesting for Hamas are actually protesting for a notorious terrorist group that has been known to oppress people and suppress the freedom of human rights in their territories.
Israel is effectively doing the same because Gaza is the most densely populated region in the world. There are 15,000 people per square mile.
So does Hamas get immunity because they're there? So Hamas gets immunity.
Israel has killed 3,500 children in the past.
According to the anti-Israel student, Israel is also guilty of using force in its attempt at fighting back against Hamas. But Ben Shapiro points out that the fact Israel uses brute force to fight against Hamas shouldn't exonerate Hamas from the crimes they committed against Israeli civilians.
Clear, your logic is that if you're a terrorist group located in a densely populated community, you hide behind civilians, you're now immune.
Where are the children meant to go?
So you're immune. Okay. That's
Where
why
are
I
they
mentioned
meant to go?
you mentioned, but okay. Your logic is that
The argument continued to go back and forth as the atmosphere in the room continued to tense up. But soon, Shapiro decided to make a connection between Israel's position in the Hamas conflict and Britain during the World War. And this got the entire room quiet.
the British were wrong in World War II, because they did. Many more Germans died than Brits. Based on the numbers, that means that Britain was wrong in World War II.
Britain wasn't bombing.
Ben Shapiro has never shied away from defending Israel, especially when it comes to debates concerning the war. And despite the fact that his stand has brought a lot of backlash, Shapiro has remained adamant in his defense of Israel.
Is up 1,350% in London over the past few weeks. That is why imams shout in Nottingham, "O Muslim, here is a Jew behind me, kill him." And that is why 100,000 people march in London in support of Hamas.
In this heated debate between Shapiro, a University of Cambridge student, Ben Shapiro called out the anti-Israel groups in support of Israel and left no stone unturned as he attacked the idea behind their movement.
What would be like sort of your solution to that? What would you propose if you're the one that's mitigating the deal between Israel and Palestine?
According to Shapiro, no form of mediation will bring the war in Gaza to a halt unless there are land swaps between Israeli people and Palestinian people. According to Shapiro, the call for the total eradication of Israeli citizens from Israeli territory is just not possible.
Everyone in the West is trying to jump to the solution without recognizing the failure of the premise. If you have two parties who are willing to make a deal is available. And if you only have one party who's willing to make a deal is not available.
Right.
Ben Shapiro is of the opinion that only Israel is willing to come to a compromise. And since Hamas has repeatedly shown its disinterest in a two-state solution, there will continue to be conflict, and Israel has the right to exist.
Accepted by the Palestinian Arabs or by their predecessors. When I say their predecessors, I mean the Arabs who were in Palestine but didn't consider themselves nationally Palestinian at the time, people who were Syrian, people who were Turkish. The Peel Commission in 1937 recommended a significantly smaller state of Israel.
Ben Shapiro has continued to remain standing on his views, and it's obvious that no backlash or disagreement is going to be good enough to get him to recheck his claims.
Again, it all comes back to the same point. Once there's a peace partner, you can talk. Until there's a peace partner, there's no talks.
Thank you so much. I feel being destroyed, but thank you.
That's all for today, guys. Thanks for sticking around until the end of this video. What moment was the most insane for you? Drop your takes in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more heated content. I'll see you all in the next video.